from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up on AgDay, USDA abandoned its GIPSA rules. Plus, Harvest 2017 struggles to gain steam.
I'm Betsy Gibbon. It's turning into a late harvest in Nebraska. We'll have updates ahead on the show.
In agribusiness, a look at soybean demand.
Now, we do have great news, though, on the demand side. It's not just limited to China.
An update on the wine country fires in California. And a well-known whiskey namesake is carrying on the family tradition.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado. High-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. After extending the comment period for the GIPSA final rule for 6 months, USDA has now decided to completely withdraw the proposed rule that focused on competition in the meat packing sector. GIPSA, or the Grain Inspection Packers and Stockyards Administration, issued what's known as Farmer Fair Practice Rules. It was put in place by the Obama administration back in 2016. Now, it was scheduled to go into effect Thursday. Several mainstream livestock groups like the National Pork Producers Council and NCBA say the rule would have been devastating on producers and are pleased with USDA's decision. Our partners at Drover say livestock organizations have been divided over the merits of USDA's proposed changes to the GIPSA rule for several years. Now, USDA's announcement is consistent with President Trump's executive order freezing federal regulations. He also signed an executive order saying that for every regulation put into effect, 2 must be eliminated.
Livestock groups opposed to the proposed GIPSA rule are relieved because they believe such new regulations would bring a wave of lawsuits from producers seeking to turn contract disputes into federal case subject to triple damages. That would create additional costs and legal uncertainty, restricting the buying and selling of livestock and lead to further vertical integration of the livestock industries and encourage packers to own more of their own livestock.
The National Chicken Council said today's livestock and poultry contracting and marketing practices are already and remain regulated by the Packers and Stockyards Act to protect farmers. Now, meatpacking giant JBSSA is withdrawing plans for a $500 million public offering. The move comes after several months of turmoil from the world's largest meat packer, stemming from political corruption and food safety scandals. According to Reuters, JBS Foods International requesting a withdrawal of their IPO with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission.
The I-80 Harvest Tour is brought to you by the Enlist Weed Control System. More weed control, less drift and volatility, maximum yield potential.
Rain has moved from the western Corn Belt to the east over the last week, putting harvest on hold or behind for many farmers. Overall corn harvest in the country is 19 points off the average pace, with less than a third picked. Soybean harvest is about at the halfway point, but it's still 11 points behind. This was earlier this week in Rochester, Indiana. 9-year-old Lane running the combine under the watchful eye of his father. While missing the weekend storms, they say this is one of the best crops they've ever harvested, with corn running above 200 bushels to the acre. USDA says Indiana corn harvest is 12 points behind the 5-year average, while soybeans are right on pace. Across the Corn Belt in Nebraska, USDA says corn picking is 22 percentage points behind the 5-year average. Soybeans are 34 points behind. National reporter Betsy Gibbon says farmers in the Cornhusker State will tell you that harvest may be a long one this year.
Empty machinery, quite unusual to see in Nebraska during October. All as rain.
We're pushing probably close to 8 inches of rain, and 2.5 of that come in about 24 hours just a couple days ago.
And everything that comes with it.
Supposed to freeze tonight?
It's supposed to, first frost, so it's supposed to, as it's sleeting right now.
Arrives on Kenny Renke's farm in Neely, Nebraska. It's not hard to tell. Farmers like him have hardly been in the fields. Farmers in Nebraska say they're usually in the middle of harvesting corn right now, but for this time in October, they're just now starting to cut beans.
You know, I've got 10 to 14 days of beans in front of me, so it's getting a little worrisome. It brings back horrible memories of '09. '09 we had beans, snow on the beans.
For Nebraska farmers, there's more stress than 2 weeks of wet beans.
You walk out in the field and you're seeing some open pods, some split pods. We get some warm weather and some wind, we're going to see some beans on the ground.
Farmers also have fall bills to pay, and those don't stop for rain.
You know, this is money out in these fields. There's a lot of credit lines, a lot of guys, rents need to be paid, you have to pay your bills. That's the other struggle people don't realize.
And depending on how long the rain stays, Ranke says he's expecting above his APH in dryland beans, but irrigated may not be as good as 2016.
We're close to last year, but I don't know if we're quite there.
Fields of beans are still standing in Hooper, Nebraska, but Lee Bowling can't get in the fields.
We harvested one afternoon, and that's been it. We're anxious to get back out in the field and get back after the bean harvest.
Anxious, since the year is getting shorter and the days are too.
Now we're looking at a day that might start at 11 or at noon, and we might be shutting down by 6.
Bowling says 2017 is not the year he wanted to leave the crop in the field this long.
By and large, things were very good here this year.
A reason he expects both corn and beans to be above his 5-year average. Yet Bowling says the physical bean is very small. That's impacting his soybean yield compared to last year.
Our pod counts were higher this year, so we were pretty optimistic, thinking we were going to get some better bean yields. Some of the other guys I've talked to in the area, they're running in the low 60s like us, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that we can get into those 70 bushel yields still.
As rain continues, Nebraska farmers hope they can make progress in the field soon, so machinery won't have to sit idle much longer. Reporting for AgDay, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
With harvest delays across the Corn Belt, farmers are looking for some better field conditions. Let's check in now with Mike Hoffman for today's crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. Ryan Scarfpin sent us some photos and drone footage of Harvest 17 in Scioto County, Ohio. That's in the southern part of the state, by the way. They're cutting soybeans right now. USDA says a little more than half of the soybean crop is harvested in the Buckeye State. That's right on pace with the 5-year average. Corn, however, about 11 points behind right now. And taking a look at the root zone moisture, boy, what a change over the last week. We'll talk more about that and have your forecast coming up in Maine weather. But first, here are some hometown temps.
Save time each day and receive the latest market prices directly to your cell phone with market updates. It makes it effortless to stay aware of shifting market prices. Just text Markets 8 to 31313 to get started.
We'll look at soybean demand as the crop comes out of the field next at the Agribusiness Desk. And later, we'll meet a college student with a famous last name who wants to help his own future by not focusing on the past successes of his family in the whiskey distillery.
AgDay, brought to you by Alivo Seed Treatment from Bayer. Protect your soybeans from SDS and nematodes this season.
In agribusiness, another mixed day in markets at the CME in Chicago. Let's find out about the trading day from our friends out there on the floor.
This is Joe Veklovic from CME Group here in Chicago. The corn market traded both sides of unchanged here on Tuesday in a pretty choppy trade, low volatility trade. We've been kind of stuck in a low volatility environment here now for several weeks, really since the later part of August. I believe December corn futures have been confined to a 16-cent range. So very, very tight, choppy trade here as of late. Now, we had a USDA report last week. That was the October crop production report. And we saw a little bit of volatility on that day. As a matter of fact, the December corn contract posted a fresh life of contract low down around 342, came back and finished the day higher. So that was a key reversal from a technical standpoint. We have not, however, seen any follow through. You know, a lot of times when you see these reversals, you'll need some follow through to confirm the reversal, and we haven't seen that just yet. So for the moment, you know, some people are still working with the idea that that very well could have been our seasonal low there last Thursday. But given improving weather here in the U.S., accelerating harvest, it's tough to say that we're out of the woods just yet. Again, Joe Veklovic from CME Group here in Chicago.
Brian Bassing, Advanced Trading, our guest here at the Agribusiness Desk. Brian, let's talk about soybeans and the demand for these beans. We have a big crop. We're harvesting a lot of acres of soybeans. Of course, you know, they're not all in yet and we're a little bit behind, but at some point we've got to sell these things. And the question always is there a buyer for it?
Clinton, you make a great point. We do have big crops. In fact, this year's crop has a chance to be total volume-wise even larger than last year because, as you said, the acres are up so much. Now, we do have great news, though, on the demand side, and it's not just limited to China. We all know, I'm sure your viewers know, how strong the demand for beans has been from China. But we're also seeing some demand strength from other parts of Southeast Asia.
Really?
Whether it's the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, all those other areas. They may not be importing beans, but they're importing soybean meal. which we're just crushing here domestically, of course. But it's very strong. We need to continue to see big crops not only in the U.S., but also in South America.
Yeah, I guess the question then becomes, how do we compete? Are we competing well enough with South America as they're just now getting started, right, putting crops in the ground?
It's a great question or a great point, Clinton, because right now the South American producer is potentially looking at planting more soybeans this year because the domestic corn price in Brazil, for example, is so cheap. So the competition is keen right now worldwide. The good news is we continue to see that demand base expand. It means we do need more acres, but right now that means we could see more acres also in South America.
Yeah, you know, last year South America gave us a little bit of a rally as we started the new year. We'll be watching weather down there, won't we?
You got a great memory, Clinton. That early rally in soybeans in January was the peak in the market until July of this year. So you got to be on your toes as a producer. Opportunities can arise when you least expect them.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for being here. We'll be back with more AgDay in just a minute.
To talk with Brian one-on-one, call Advanced Trading at 800-664-2314 or head online to advanced-trading.com. AgDay, brought to you by Liberty Herbicide, the simply better solution for superior weed control and a stronger yield. AgDay weather, brought to you by Kawasaki and the new Mule Pro FXR side-by-side. Ride like a boss with high-end styling and rugged capability.
Welcome back to AgDay. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman looking at the root zone moisture map. And Mike, you can see why harvest has slowed down so much over the last few weeks. This dramatic amount of blue in the middle of the country.
It is amazing, and parts of the Ohio Valley now in the southeast, even that really dry area over Illinois and eastern Ohio kind of going away. So if you just kind of stand back and look at this map, you can see that the blue just completely dominates the oranges and reds. Really the reddest area is Arizona, which is typically kind of dry, parts of the west coast as well, but a good chunk of the country definitely wetter than normal for this time of the year. So it's good news that we have high pressure dominating most of those areas in the lower 48. Still getting a couple of showers in northern New England, some scattered showers and storms in Florida. A couple of showers are coming into Southern California, and we have another system coming into the Pacific Northwest. So putting the maps into motion, you can see the area of low pressure over the southern Gulf not really coming this way anytime real soon. We'll have to watch it eventually for South Texas with some moisture. But you can see by this afternoon, decent rains coming into parts of Washington, some snow in the highest elevations. Still, most of the lower 48 completely dry as high pressure continues to dominate. That's the case as we head into the day tomorrow. A little bit of moisture with that system now coming through the Four Corner region, and that'll bubble up with some scattered showers and thunder showers tomorrow afternoon. A couple of showers in northern New England, a couple of showers in southern Florida, but really the bulk of the moisture is with this pretty strong system coming into the Pacific Northwest. That's going to be sending some rain by later tomorrow, all the way into northern California for a change. Precipitation estimates over the past 24 hours, you can see very little over the lower 48. Adding in the next 36 hours or so, you can see a little bit more in Florida, some spotty amounts in the southwest, but the most rain is going to be in the Pacific Northwest, especially western Washington and northwestern Oregon. Putting in the snowfall, it's mainly in Canada, both in the east and the west, but a little bit into the far northern Rockies, the highest elevations going to start to show up as well. Taking a look at high temperatures today, pretty warm for this time of the year from Omaha southward, 70s, a few 80s showing up also. Lots of 60s across the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes. Lows tonight, tons of 40s and 50s through the midsections of the country. Highs tomorrow afternoon, more of the same. Most of these numbers are near or a little bit above normal for this time of the year. And you can see everything's kind of moving from west to east, but the next system coming in out west, all models continue to show a strong trough developing middle of next week for the eastern half of the country, and that could be a cold shot of air. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. First of all, Phoenix, Arizona, hazy sunshine, warm and humid today. High temperature all the way up to 98. Fargo, North Dakota, partly sunny, breezy, rather mild for this time of the year. High 65. And Knoxville, Tennessee, lots of sunshine and pleasant. High near 70.
When we come back, we'll look at the produce industry from our partners over at the Packer, and later learning to distill generations of knowledge into a college course. This Kentucky namesake is following in some pretty big footsteps today in the country.
AgDay, brought to you by Credenz soybean seed from Bayer. Designed using smart genetics with tailored varieties to fit any field condition.
From our partners at the Packer, consumers should expect smaller U.S. lemons this season. Growers saying weights are down about 15% and sizes are on the small size, at least right now. They're hoping moisture will help to keep the fruit growing as harvest wears on in Arizona and California. Now, prices have fallen over the summer due to large volumes of imports from Chile and Mexico. Those shipments are dwindling, however, which is good news for growers here in the U.S. Wildfires that spread throughout California's wine country will leave a lasting mark on the industry and its tourism. The Sacramento Bee reporting that the state's wine industry in Napa and Sonoma counties faced the wildfires at the worst time of year possible. Fall is considered prime time for visitors. Tourism is a $3.2 billion industry annually there. And so far, just a handful of wineries have been outright destroyed. However, owners are already talking about rebuilding. And according to the Packers Fresh Trends survey, organic sales continue to rise, and that includes organic bananas. In 2017, 9% of banana buyers say they always buy organic. That matches what some industry packing houses say they're seeing. They say it used to be 1 in 20 containers were organic, now it's 1 in 10. A family name may not always guarantee success, but it sure doesn't hurt. Next we'll meet a college student who doesn't want to ride on the success of his ancestors.
Unlock the power of ag technology this December in Indianapolis at the first ever AgTech Expo. Learn all about it at farmjournalagtech.com.
In the country. Brought to you by Kubota. See the all-new Commander Pro zero-turn mower at Kubota.com or visit your local Kubota dealer today.
For 7 generations, the Beam family of Western Kentucky has been producing its famed bourbon whiskey, Jim Beam. The tricks of the trade have passed from generation to generation. Well, now a current family member wants to learn even more about the distilling business. In this video from the University of Kentucky, Jeff Franklin tags along as Ben Beam heads to class.
Ben Beam is currently working in the distilling industry as a distillery operator here at Michter's Distillery in Louisville. Beam actually graduated from Western Kentucky University just last spring, but heard about UK's distilling, wine, and brewing program and enrolled immediately.
One of the things I have kind of learned is that it takes time. You're not going to learn it all in one day. You're not going to learn it all in 1 week or a month. You have to show up every day and have, the right attitude and an open mind to absorb everything that's being thrown at you. It takes time.
Influence your oxidation rate.
Seth DeBolt, a UK horticulture professor, is the director of the DWB program and teaches some of the classes. DeBolt says distillation, wine, and brewing are a multi-million-dollar industry with a wide range of career opportunities, and the UK program is helping prepare students.
Every major beverage alcohol industry in the world, whether it's cognac, scotch, or wine, has workforce development and university assistance, and it's great that the University of Kentucky is putting classes together to offer that here where there is a thriving industry.
DeBolt and UK chemistry professor Bert Lynn, who also teaches classes in the program. Lynn had the opportunity to have Beam in one of his classes, which he said made it even more interesting for everyone.
The discussions that occurred between the people participating in the class was just outstanding, because he would weave in stories about his ancestors and what they did, and it just added so much roundness to the class. It was just outstanding.
Ben Beam is from Bardstown, Kentucky, which he calls the bourbon capital, and where the Jim Beam family distillery has been located since the 1850s. From the University of Kentucky College of Agriculture, Food and Environment, I'm Jeff Franklin reporting.
Wishing him much success. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Start your day with us. For all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.
AgDay, brought to you by Ram Commercial, America's longest-lasting heavy-duty pickups.